Actually, today it's good being me because I feel very productive, and I am out in the queer community again as an activist, which I wasn't doing for almost 5 years. So it feels great being me.
It's, well, if we're talking about how does it feel to live with a disability, it feels, it's something we don't talk about enough. It's something nobody ever really asks me how it feels, which is, so to have it asked back to me even now is like, whoa. But it's a different experience altogether, because I think there are days where it feels great and there are days where it doesn't feel so great, because oftentimes you don't have control over a lot of things. You don't have control over how you get up. You don't have control over what time you get up. You don't have control over a lot of things that most people take for granted.
And I think what you'll find reported from trans people are other communities as well, that we will choose not to access service rather than access a service that would be disrespectful or harmful or both.
I get together with the gay people in the group that I have in our home. We're about 6, 7, 8. We meet every 2 weeks. We have tea. We bring out our nice china, right? Nice tablecloths, nice china, and they call it tea with the figure. First they tried to call it Queen's tea, right? But that was a little bit too and it was a little bit much, The change it was tea with the figure.
And so I think that homophobia exists, but I think it's important to remember that it isn't always, again, an overt, aggressive act. It's in the little tiny quiet moments where there's a misunderstanding. And I think because the CARE organization has not been trained on discussing sexuality within these models, they don't know any better. The worker may not know any better. Based on their lived experience, they may not have context for that.
I had to go into emergency about 2 months ago. A very handsome young black man shook my hand, showed me a place to sit down, and said, "We are now going to do your intake," because I had never been to that hospital before. And I gave him my email address, part of which is Chinese, and so it's Laotian. And he then asked me some more questions, and then he said, "Are you married?" And I said, "Yes," and he immediately said to me, "What's your wife's name?" And I said, "Well, looks like we need some diversity training here." And he said, "Oh, yes, you said Chinese. What's her Chinese name?" So I thought, so I looked at him, I said, "We really do need diversity training here." And I said, "I am married to a man, and his name is Peter." And his face just dropped. And he just knew that he shouldn't have done it that way,
I had a most wonderful PSW when I came out of Bridgepoint and I needed health care. And I had her for 5 years, and she was a dream. And I waited about 3 months before I came out to her. And I wanted her to get to know me before I came out to her. And I initiated a conversation about lesbians. And I asked her if she knew any lesbians. And she didn't really know what a lesbian was. So I explained. And she says, "Oh, yeah, that's fine with me." And she says, "Are you one?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She says, "Oh, okay. Well, is there anything you want to tell me?" And I said, "No, the fact that you accepted me so easily works for me." And we actually have remained friends.
So I went for a mammogram, and the chart, you have to fill out this chart, and it says, when was my first period, and when was your last menstrual cycle, and all of these very, non-relevant terms to me, and I I didn't know what to do, and I thought, well, I should go for this test. So I took a form, I filled it out, but I didn't fill the areas where I thought it was problematic. And then I went in and they called me in to do the test, and I said, hey, this form doesn't matter to me. She says, oh, well, that's okay, because all the normal girls are able to fill it out. That was a bad experience. I mean, I felt like getting up and walking out of the door. Now, when it came to the technology, she was really good, but I mean, that was like, I had to get through all of that just to do the test.
In terms of my everyday life, though, I don't want to have to fight so hard to get just the most simple things done. I don't want to have to. It's really tough when you don't know who's coming in to get you up in the morning, and you don't have a choice in who does that, and you don't get a say in who's hired, and you don't get a say in who's touching your body, and you don't get a say. You're supposed to simply go, oh, you're an attendant? Great, come on in. See me naked, no problem.
One of the instances that happens to me quite frequently, almost every 6 weeks. I get my hair cut every 6 weeks. And every 6 weeks there's an incident of a woman telling me I'm going into the wrong washroom. When I'm heading to the women's washroom, they're trying to direct me to the men's washroom, to the point where it's now becoming physical. They feel they have the right to actually touch my body without my permission and grab my clothing to prevent me from going into the women's washroom.
One thing happened was I was just getting so flustered, and I had to go back to get my hand re-examined. And I show my health card to the nurse, and I said, you need to call me, ma'am. That's really important to me. And she looks up at me and looks at the card, looks up to me and looks at the card. She says, oh, I understand. I just want to say I remember that to this day, that was a positive experience.
Talk openly about what's difficult for you. And I think there got to be some place where when staff has issues with this, that they can go and talk about it, and that they're not going to be punished or scolded.
Well, I think that ideal care for me would be where I would be able to be myself. If I had any concerns, I could express them as a gay person without somebody or rattling the rosary or the Bible. People talk about we treat everybody the same way, but they don't. I mean, obviously when I asked that specialist about anal sex, he just about went nuts. I don't want to have to deal with that. I think that if PSWs, nurses, and so on are properly trained, which would mean that they understand where LGBTQ folks are coming from, and they accept that, not tolerate it, but accept it. One would even like to say they would be willing to celebrate it too. Certainly patients like Pride. That would be good.
As long as the people have the ability to talk openly about their apprehension, I think that releases lots of stuff. I know from my own experience, when I have issues, then if I can talk openly about it, if I'm in touch with my own feelings about these issues, then something is lifted, right? And I can go out and do what I need to do. But I have to confront my own fears first.
I do have a phrase that says, sometimes it gets better. And I'm hoping that a result of this work here, and maybe people watching this video, that we can make that sometimes most of the time.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that anybody who's looking at this video will go out and do something positive in their own lives, because everybody out there knows somebody who is queer, who is lesbian, gay, treat them the same way you would want to be treated, with dignity, respect, and compassion.